I really don't think you guys truly understand how destructive certain girls can be to your life. My message to you guys is don't let Delilah play you. First things first, story of Samson and Delilah. Judges chapter 16. There was a man named Samson. Samson was blessed with supernatural strength. He was so strong that one day he was out in the field and he tore a lion apart with his bare hands. He could defeat the enemy's soldiers single-handedly. So God raised up Samson as like a mighty warrior. The only catch was he was never to cut his hair. His long hair was a symbol of his consecration to God. So that was the secret of his strength, his hair. Well, one day he meets a woman named Delilah. And the Bible says that he liked Delilah. He thought she was cute. Slow it down. I just want to get to know ya. Yeah. He liked her. Now, little did Samson know that the only reason Delilah was coming around was because she wanted something. Because Samson's enemies said to Delilah, if you can find out the secret of his strength, we will pay you. So Delilah's like, okay. She was like, Samson, you don't love me. If you care about me, you would tell me the secret of your strength. You must not love me. You must not care for me. Trying to get this information. Working her little flirtatious powers. Samson. So he finally told her and was like, Delilah, okay, it's my hair. If you cut my hair, I won't be strong anymore. And so as soon as he fell asleep, Delilah called Samson's enemies. They cut his hair, bound him up, and took him away. And Samson could not fight them because his strength from God had left him. What happens to Samson? They threw him in prison. They gouged his eyes out. Samson was blind. That incident with Delilah changed him for the rest of his life. So that story did not end for Samson the way it really should have. Samson got played by Delilah. So often, guys also get played by Delilah, and I don't even think most of you even realize what is happening because you're so caught up in the attention that you're getting. You don't understand how they are becoming destructive influences. So you can't let that happen to you. First, in order to make sure you don't get played by Delilah, you have to be able to recognize one. Because certainly not every woman is Delilah. In fact, God made woman to be one of man's greatest assets. Proverbs 31 talks about how a wife of noble character brings her husband good, not harm, all the days of her life. You know, the Bible also talks about how a godly wife is her husband's crown. When God created Eve, the very first wife, He called her a helpmeet. I looked up the Hebrew word, and it's not because I wanted to be super crazy spiritual, but it's because I wanted to know what that Hebrew word helpmeet really meant. Well, it's interesting. The help that is referred to in the word helpmeet is not the word that is used when it talks about a servant helping a master, even though wives are to serve their husbands. And the Bible does talk about that. But that word helpmeet, that form of help is not the servant help. That word help is actually used when it talks about God helping His people. It's a deep help. So women are really made and designed to help men on a deep level, not just this little like weak help. No, it's a strong help. In other words, we add strength to your life. A Delilah takes strength. God made Samson strong. Delilah took strength. I'm not just talking about emotional strength because relationships are tiring, whether you're with a good person or not. But a Delilah takes something specifically that God gave you. Some of you were like Samson. God has blessed you and He set up your life to succeed. Maybe He had built up your spiritual strength. He was developing your integrity, developing spiritual sensitivity to know right from wrong before If someone were to send you like a nasty text message, maybe something about that would have offended you before, but something about Delilah is causing you to lose spiritual sensitivity. Now that kind of stuff doesn't even bother you. You don't even think twice about it now because you're not as sensitive as you used to be to God. It's not that she's doing it, but it's her influence in your life. She's pulling you away from the things of God. A Delilah takes strength, not in a normal way. When you're single, you get to devote all of your time to God. And when you're with somebody, even if it's a godly person, you have to shift some of your attention to them. But a Delilah drags you away from the things of God. What do you do when you recognize the difference between those two women? You have to shut her activity in your life down. Shut it down. It's tempting to think that you are not responsible for something that you did not encourage. Well, I didn't tell her to do that. I didn't tell her to bend over like that. I didn't tell her to come over. She sent that by herself. Sometimes you think because you didn't encourage it that it's not your responsibility when she does it. But the problem is, whatever you don't shut down, you are passively allowing. It's not enough to not encourage it. You have to also shut it down. I want to really tell you why. And I have to thank my brother, Aaron. He pointed this verse out to me. Good guy. God took the people of Israel to Canaan, the promised land. But there were foreigners in Canaan, and those foreigners did not follow God. So God said, you have got to drive them out of that land. Numbers chapter 33, verse 55. But if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land, those you allow to remain will become barbs in your eyes and thorns in your side. They will give you trouble in the land where you live. Those you allow to remain will give you trouble in the land where you live. Same thing with us. Those negative people that we allow to remain in our midst, influencing us, they will give us trouble. You have to shut it down. God said you have to drive them out. Don't leave them in your midst because he knew too well the power of influence. But do you think the people listened? No, they didn't. And it affected King Solomon. King Solomon had it going on. Wisdom, knowledge, power, wealth, splendor. The favor of God too. Nobody else was on his level. And after all of this, do you know what it is that messed Solomon up? Women. The wrong kinds of women. King Solomon, however, loved many foreign women, Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonites, and Hittites. They were from the nations about which the Lord had told Israelites, you must not intermarry with them because they will surely turn your hearts after their gods. In other words, all those women that he was marrying, they were from the nations that God said, drive them out completely. You catch the connection there? It says, nevertheless, Solomon held fast to them in love, and his wives led him astray. His wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God as the heart of David his father had been. God, that breaks my heart. If you got a Delilah in your mix, shut it down completely. Some girls you may just need to stop talking to altogether. Just leave them alone. It's not worth it. Just say to yourself, everything that God's doing in my life is not worth it. For some, you might have to correct their actions. If they send you some kind of inappropriate text message, hey, you know what, sis? No offense to you, but that's not what I'm about. And I hope you can respect that. And if you can't, you might just have to lose my number. Hey, sis, why are you bending over in front of me? I really don't need to see all that. I'm not trying to be rude to you. I don't need to see all that. You know what? Why are you coming over here this late? Because you know you're going to fall asleep and then you're going to act like you need to stay over here when really it's early enough for you to go home now. Shut it down! Either get rid of her or get rid of the action that is creating a problem. Because it's not worth it. Pray about it. God knows what you're supposed to do. And it'd be different if God was saying, like, don't mess with women at all. He's saying, leave the Delilahs alone and get a wife. Get a helpmeet. Get a good woman who's going to be good to you. Have as much fun with her as you want. God has a plan and a purpose for you. Don't forfeit that purpose because of a Delilah. Don't sell out for pleasure. Learn how to distinguish the Delilahs from the helpmeets. And when you figure out who the Delilahs are, shut it down. Get them out from your midst. Leave them alone. And protect the strength and purpose of God on your life. Don't get played by Delilah. It's not worth it. Be blessed.